Alright, I get it. We're all social animals and we need to live with one another. We depend on each other. But there's a thin fine line between living together side by side normally and caring too much what other people think of you. Many people seem to believe that in order to live harmoniously, they should put themselves in this prison of trying to please everybody. Before we go deeper into this, as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. That would be a tremendous help. You see, people want to be right all the time. Even if there's a small possibility that they might be wrong, they would prefer to look away. If you have a deep desire to try something new, whatever that is, usually that's something different to what everybody else around you is doing. Some people may even call you weird or silly for even thinking about it. And the big challenge is, how do you go against these seemingly endless tides of pressure and expectations brought about by those who seem to think they know better than you? The power of the people comes from their sheer numbers. The more people there are in a group, the more they believe they are right. And yet, numbers alone don't signify truth. Personally for me, the more people are convinced on a certain line of thinking, the more critical we need to be. The reason why people hate the weird ones or those who think differently is because there's a sneaky feeling that they might be onto something here. They can't tolerate the fact that they couldn't even see such a possibility or even have the courage to do what you do. To be able to think outside the box requires two things. First, the intelligence to come up with new shit. It can be something totally ordinary that takes place in your daily life, or some crazy new shit that's gonna blow up the whole society. Second, the courage to be radical, presenting a new idea to someone else, basically risking yourself to look like a fool, is not a straightforward task. Right now, I've been trying to implement a new, almost radical eating habit. It's very simple. I just start to eat more slowly and more mindfully. I realize that the faster I eat, the less mindful I become of how the food actually tastes, how much food I take in, and how the whole process works from the mouth to the belly. I could totally see the benefits straight away, that I start to take in the food that's only necessary for my body, being extra mindful that if I gobble down useless stuff, the digestive systems in my body would take the bullets for me. This is not even something that you would call a breakthrough idea. But even a tiny change in ordinary behaviors like eating could trigger someone else's ego mechanism. As soon as I make this change, I could sense a growing hostility towards me. People don't like it. It offends them. Here they are mindlessly eating like robots, eating junk food. To see someone actually take their time to eat is deemed offensive. This is how it's supposed to be around here. Don't try to be a smarty pants, asshole. They can't accept the small possibility that the other person might be right, and that their way of consuming food up till now has actually been destructive. So, what do these hordes of mindless people tend to do? They would use any means possible to drag you down to their level of being. In other words, they try to extinguish the bright sparks of humanity. Yes, I like to call the social misfits who think outside the box the bright sparks of humanity. The hypocrisy going on in these people is beyond unthinkable. They would say something like, "We are the society. We want progress." But sometime later, when they finally meet someone who thinks differently and actually comes up with new ideas, they would do everything possible to shut them up and make them conform to how it's supposed to be. Progress needs to come hand in hand with new ideas. Without new ideas, there's no possibility of progress. The growth of society is built upon one novel idea after another. There's no two ways about it. The progress of communication technologies like social media first requires someone to come up onto the scene with the other big media moguls and say, "You guys are freaking outdated. I have something that's gonna light your ass on fire." Only someone who's also on the same intelligence spectrum and receptive enough to new knowledge would be able to listen to this guy. But the other guys would just feel attacked, and their whole defense mechanism would start acting up. What if this guy is right, and I'm outdated? and I could possibly go out of business? The word progress doesn't even compute in their brains. It's merely a word that sounds good. When they come to see the actuality of progress in the infancy form of radical new ideas, their mind would just shut down in fear. When people judge you or say something nasty about you, always remember that they do it from where they stand. Many parents don't really care whether you are a good student who learns anything at school. All your parents care about is how their friends would perceive them when they realize that their son is a freaking professor. Only the rare, loving parents tell you to be who you are and learn whatever you want. People don't actually care whether you do things differently. All they care about is how your actions are gonna impact how they are perceived in the world. And yet, there's always a danger of being different for the sake of being different. Those of you who have been feeling the pull to be different throughout your life, but have always been told, don't be weird, might carry some anger in you. Like, how come people don't freaking understand me? People are so freaking stupid. The society is a giant, mindless robot. I am the savior. And when this anger isn't properly resolved, there is always the possibility of being different for the sake of proving to them you know things better than them. But when you're in this mindset, you're not really able to see the actual good of doing what you do. Is you talking back to your superiors something that you feel strongly about? Or is it coming from your pent-up frustrations toward authority figures early in your childhood? Do you become a vegan from a true understanding of what your body really needs? Or is it just more of, look at this mindless junk food eating society? The key here is to acknowledge the reason for doing things in a certain way. If you're different from everybody else, but somehow still trying to prove them wrong, you're still giving a fuck. You're still playing their game. What I'm getting at here is true aloneness that comes from your deep conviction that sometimes in order to be slightly more fulfilled in life, you gotta go your own ways and be weird. It's okay to be weird. Being weird in a sick society is actually a good sign of a healthy individual. If you are too agreeable and you've got way too many friends around you, that should be the time to be more questioning of yourself. The bigger the crowd, the more tendency to not want to rock the boat, and thus less possibility for critical, independent thinking. Always beware of the crowd.